Hello, everyone. Welcome to our chakra series. Tonight's class is on the solar plexus chakra and those good old power issues, power and will, as Leroy said. Before we get started, first of all, a few housekeeping slides for you. Here at EAN, you can study astrology with us 3 different ways. You can listen to our free weekly audio podcasts. You can subscribe to our Astro Library, and you can enroll in our multimedia course. Here is a slide on our Astro Library. This is where almost all of our educational and forecasting materials end up at some point. You can see we have 3 different sections to the library. You can enroll for 1 month, 6 months, 12 months, or you can do a monthly recurring that you can cancel at any time. Here's our multimedia course. You can see that we have 3 different segments up here on your screen. You can purchase segments 1, 2, and 3 in as it describes here with the actual DVDs and binders of materials. Such segments 1 and 2, you could enroll online, digital versions only, or you can do both. You can get all the physical materials and the digital subscription with segments 1 and 2. And so again, tonight's subject's going to be on the solar plexus or navel chakra. It is the 3rd chakra in our series. The first few slides here, we're going to review some of our generic material on the chakras. Thank you for letting me do this every class. Here's some books that are well-known sources for chakra work. Of course, Anadio Judith has her Wheels of Life and Eastern Body, Western Mind. Her Wheels of Life is one of the classics in regards to the chakra books. And you can see that the first person who ever wrote, Arthur Avalon, this was actually a British judge or lawyer that wrote under a pseudonym, whatever you call that word, because he had this other life in which he studied theosophy and the mystical Eastern philosophies. And so he had his left brain world, he had his right brain world, and he wrote one of the classics. I've not read that book, but it's a lot of the information that C.W. Ledbetter built his chakra book on, the stuff coming from Arthur Avalon. And then, of course, Anadia Judith took it to a whole new level with all of her research in the area of chakras. There are 7 major chakras that we're going to work with here throughout this series. There are known to be more minor chakras. I'm not familiar with those, so I won't even go there. But the number 7 related to the 7 major chakras is well known in many different philosophies. You can see some of them on your screen. And we also have the 7 days of the week, the 7 stars in the Big Dipper, the 7 colors of the rainbow, the 7 notes in the major scales in music. Now, the chakras originate from Eastern philosophies. They are known to be centers of consciousness behind any manifestation. In other words, that mind that creates matter, the energy that creates manifestation, the chakras are the energy sources that then create into the physical world. In other words, the chakras are the energy centers that vitalize the physical body. Now, your Eastern philosophies are more concerned with the higher chakras or consciousness over the lower chakras or the material, and your Western philosophies are the opposite. They're more concerned with the lower chakras in the material world versus wanting to expand consciousness and inner peace and the perceptions that come from the higher chakras. Chakra is a Sanskrit word for wheel, circle, a disc of life force in the subtle body. As you can see here, you can number them any way you would like to. Oh, I forgot to change this little slide right here. I'll do this afterward. Today we're working on the third chakra, as I like to call it, the power or the navel chakra that exists right there around your belly button. You can see over here they're numbered 1 to 7 here, 7 to 1. Again, it can go either way. I think this is more the most common way of numbering the chakras as we deal with it. The chakras are known as being nerve centers, nerve ganglia. And I forgot to change these too. Solar plexus is related to all of the nerves in the solar plexus or navel area. The 7 chakras also relate to the endocrine system, and the solar plexus is most well known with the adrenals and the pancreas, although we shall see that there is a lot of other areas that relate to the solar plexus chakra as well. Now, Kundala is a Sanskrit word for coiled, and Kundalini was the Hindu goddess known as the sleeping serpent, who was coiled 3.5 times around the root chakra. And when we awaken the Kundalini energy, it starts to travel up the spine, and it awakens each chakra and transforms its energy, makes it come alive, makes it spin. Now the Sushumna, and again, please forgive my butchering of all these words. I need you helping me out here, Leroy. But it's okay, I'll do my best. The Sushumna is that vertical column of energy current from the base of the spine to the crown. And the Ida and Pingala are the energy currents that travel in figure eights around each chakra. Here's a visual of it. Here's the Sushumna going straight up, and here's the Ida and Pingala that travel in their spiraling energy, making all these figure eight patterns from, again, the base of the spine up to the crown chakra. Now, the real big thing to understand is our chakra energy runs both directions. And the wholeness is being able to balance all the chakras and run the energy either way. And so when we start with the root chakra and go upward, this is known as the process of liberation. We are liberating ourselves from matter and raising or expanding consciousness. And the manifestation direction goes from the crown chakra to the root, and this is where we are taking consciousness and bringing it down into matter and manifestation. So one direction is not better than the other. They are both equal and held in balance. In other words, we're blending the Eastern and Western philosophies here and running the energy however it's necessary in our lives. From EA's perspective, the Kundalini gland is an actual gland that exists at the base of the spine or the coccyx behind the root chakra. And the intention of the Kundalini hormone is to penetrate to the nucleus of any cell in order to purge toxins, heal, and alchemically change the consciousness of each and every cell. Typical symptoms of initiating the Kundalini energy are intense heat or cold. We can have spasms, and we can sometimes have a transitory paralysis. Now, the purging can be actual physical contaminants that we are cleansing and purging out of the cells, or it can be done on a metaphysical, non-physical level in which we are purging and healing cellular memories from other lifetimes. When we have the Kundalini energy rise and become ignited, it can create any manner of physical symptoms that are not always easily diagnosed by traditional medicine. And as a matter of fact, one of the things that we are looking at through this chakra series is what are the health and wellness correlations to each of the chakras. There can be various experiences of psychological, emotional, and psychological and anatomical states that arise with the Kundalini energy. And they always must be reflected upon. We do not have a judgment of when the Kundalini action starts to rise and starts to activate the various chakras. Again, many times, the Kundalini experience, the expanding of consciousness, the activation of the chakras, they will relate to experiences that can orientate from other lifetimes and be re-experienced in this life. And when we have a repetition of those inner and outer circumstances, what it means is that these issues have not totally been resolved or healed. And it is very important here that you don't judge this. I thought I worked upon issues of rejection in my life already. How come I'm re-experiencing this all over again? Because there's something that is still there to be healed, to be learned. And in whatever the issue is, whether it's rejection or a physical illness or a psychosomatic state of some sort, it will come around again and again and again as many times necessary in order for the soul to heal. Now, one of the things that is a very popular myth with Kundalini is that it's all about sexuality. No, that's just because the sacral chakra is so close to the root chakra, and when we start awakening that root chakra and liberating ourselves and deconditioning from the consensus Saturnian world, the next chakra after the root is the sacral, and that one gets activated as well. And sometimes it can increase sexual energy, but it can also decrease the sexual energy if the Kundalini energy is just really being utilized, for instance, to purge any toxins. Now, the chakras combined with the planetary rulerships are primary. They're the foundations. The chakra rulerships by the planets come in and give a secondary rulership, so to speak, to help us get a more broader understanding of where we might have areas of weakness and strength in the body. As a general rule in astrology, and there's always exceptions to the rule, as a general rule, stressful aspects will tend to show areas of weakness. They're more or less known as the conjunctions, squares, oppositions, and the semi-squares and sesquisquadrates. Non-stressful aspects tend to show areas of strength. They're more known as sextiles and trines. And of course, there's a general rule that inconjuncts will show areas of health crises as well. However, you always have to observe and correlate. You cannot take this as gospel. what you see on this slide. Sometimes you can have a stellium of planets together, and the energy of all those planets coming together in multiple conjunctions could create strength instead of weakness. You're going to, again, observe and correlate through your interaction with the person whose chart you're looking at. Now, here is a picture of the chakra rulerships according to Jeffrey Wolf Green. And he has stated that in regards to the traditional or ancient planets, which are the ones visible from the through the eye, which is Sun through Saturn, the rulerships that you see here on your screen with these planets and the 7 chakras here. These rulerships are based upon ancient Indian astrology. Jeffrey brought in Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. He brought their rulerships in from his own research. So this is a combination of an ancient Indian rulership system of the chakras and Jeffrey's research and intuitive understandings. And this is a page out of the Uranus book that Jeffrey Wolf Green had. So when we look at the solar plexus, and it's also known as the navel chakra or the power and will chakra, in the world of EA, the solar plexus chakra has 2 co-rulers, Mars and Pluto. And the sound that comes from this chakra is the harp or the strings. And of course, here's the picture from Anadia Judith's book, Wheel of Life. This is the 10-petaled chakra. And when we look at the exertion of our personal will, a lot of it will come down to movement of the hands. We have 10 fingers. And the movement of our feet, we have 10 toes. And so there's a correlation of fingers and toes to the 10 petals of this lotus in the 3rd chakra. It is called the Manipura chakra, if I am pronouncing it correctly. Its color is yellow. It's the 3rd longest wavelength and the 3rd slowest vibration on the visible spectrum of the rainbow of colors, the 7 colors of the rainbow. This chakra is known as the Jewel City. It's also known as the lustrous gem, and it is many times correlated to the sun and the radiance and fire and heat of the sun. Anadia feels that the solar plexus chakra is the fire chakra. She calls the root chakra earth chakra, that's survival, to physically survive. The sacral chakra is ruled by water. She feels that the solar plexus or navel chakra is ruled by fire. And what is the greatest source of fire that we are aware of but the sun itself? So one of the most basic energies of this chakra is the ability to transform and create. Key expressions for this chakra are power, will, energy, metabolism, literal and figurative, transformation, combustion, vitality, action. Some of the distortions that you'll run into with this chakra is aggressiveness, selfishness, anger, power hungry. Those are kind of over expressions of this chakra. And we can have an under expression of this chakra, and that's where we become very withdrawn, and we have a lack of motivation, a lack of will, a lack of power. We can't seem to get out of bed. So any of the chakras can be carried to excess. They can be overexpressed or underexpressed. And one of the things that we will really see here through the third chakra is the right use of power and will, and aligning personal will with cosmic will. Now, one of the basic tasks of this chakra is that of will overcoming inertia to produce energy more easily. And there's the inertia of the body being at rest, and there is the inertia of the body being in motion. And what this is talking about here is when we take that personal will and align it with universal will, then actions come more easily. Actions flow better. And when we're flowing, we're still moving, but we're so in alignment with personal universal will together that there's almost an inertia. It doesn't take as much energy as when our personal will is trying to force something to happen that is not in alignment with our highest and best good. Then we're dissipating energy. We are forcing ourselves to do something, and it takes more and more work and effort to do that when personal will is not aligning with universal will. So the third chakra here, what it's doing is it's taking the duality of the second chakra and transforming it into something entirely new. For those of you who have been following this series, when we looked at the first chakra, or the root chakra, it was the survival chakra. It was the gravity. It was the grounding of ourselves on planet Earth. It was it was mass that was just having us in the whole manifestation. And then as we moved to the second chakra, what we became aware of was the duality of movement, the duality of the polarities, the number two, think of the number two dividing the circle, the duality of light and dark, male and female, from the whole gender thing. And what we learned with that second chakra then was the initiation of movement beyond just mere survival. It would include survival through sexuality, but we started to take off in regards to the energy of movement. And so what happens here now with the third chakra is we take not only the duality of the second chakra, but we take the gravity of the first and the movement of the second, and we create energy. And so it relates a lot to the solar plexus chakra, relates a lot to E equals mc squared, which basically tells us that mass and energy are inseparable. You do not destroy energy, you just change its form. The change is the movement. So the mass is the first chakra, the movement, the change, is the second chakra, and that gets us to the third chakra, which is energy itself. And so we start to use will and power to create. It's energy that we use to create with. And a lot of it is, how are we going to create energy? More on that one. But as you can see, if you look behind these words, root, sacral, solar plexus chakra, it exists right here in the navel area by that good old belly button. So we're going to find out that it's going to come in and have a general rulership of everything here in this body. And as a matter of fact, this chakra rules metabolism in general. And metabolism is the combustion of matter or food into energy or action, and it creates heat. So when we if we look at excess weight issues in general, basically we are not utilizing our third chakra. We are not converting this chakra into enough energy to metabolize the matter in our body, to metabolize the food. So excess weight can many times be the underdevelopment of the third chakra, being a little more withdrawn, lethargic. Whoops, I didn't realize that I had these two. I never had a chance to review my slides. I was changing things around, so I got those two in there twice. I'll get that out for your PDF. But what we're starting to piece together here is how this third chakra, it can utilize energy to create or destroy. An energy that's creating, it's full of life, it's full of heat, it's warm, it's radiating out like the sun. And when energy of the third chakra is used to destroy, it can destroy self, it can shut down self to the point where we have no will, where we have no power. It can also be used to destroy others. When we look at will and power, okay, we start to get into that power over under situation. And so power here, when it comes to the chakra, is a force that is from the momentum below and the form from the mind above. So you can see how the force of the lower two chakras start to combine with the higher chakras from up above. And they create power, they create will, they create energy and action. And so a major question is, are we going to distort this chakra into power over, power under? Or are we going to learn how to give power to ourself, power to others, sharing power with others, seeing that we create better together than we do separately. This chakra teaches us this. If we're into the distortions of this chakra and we are not exercising our power, we can be fearful. We can be fearful of those who have power over us. And there's plenty of that power over in the consensus world. So we have to awaken this chakra and find our own will and find our own power. And then we must balance that, because we can go too far and want to have power over others in order to feel more powerful. And again, that's another distortion of it. So it's not about power over under. It's about sharing empowerment. It's about, the good old matriarchy versus patriarchy principles, the giving, sharing, and including versus the taking, hoarding, and excluding. So as you can see here on the screen, this distortion of power in this chakra can turn inward on ourself with anger, self-criticism, or closing down. It can be distorted into seeing others as more powerful than us, versus an awakening it within ourselves and sharing it with others. So this chakra is really about teaching us to love ourselves, to love life, and to feed the fire of life within ourselves. To have a center within ourselves that loves ourselves, to create energy with ourselves, for ourselves. So we have, what we're seeing here is that power of connection and union versus isolation and separateness. And that we need to have an inner power for confidence and growth, to create, to exercise our will. And if we do become too attached to our power, to our will, to our desire nature, we can keep ourselves locked in the lower chakras, the bottom 3 chakras. What we're going to find between the 3rd and 4th chakra is they're the bridges between the lower chakras and the higher chakras. So, for instance, the 1st chakra, 2nd chakra, the root and sacral chakras, they have a tendency through force of gravity and survival to pull us downward. Whereas when we start to get to the 3rd chakra and the solar plexus navel, energy can go down, energy can go up. It starts to become easier to raise the energy upward. The energy can go in all directions. And when we have the energy from the higher chakras coming down into the solar chakra, we create better. Again, what we'll find is from the crown chakra, the higher self, and where we tap into source, it's the energy that allows us to align the personal will with universal will. Now, in general, the solar plexus chakra correlates to the nerves emanating from this middle region of the body. And there's a lot of stuff in there. There's the stomach, so you can see how this relates to digestion and metabolism. Here's another one of my words, the duodenum, whatever. It is the upper part of the small intestine. I know what it is. Kidneys. The kidneys purify the red blood cells. And we're going to see that Mars has a rulership of red blood cells here. This is the area of the gallbladder. The gallbladder stores the bile that's secreted from the liver for emulsifying fats and neutralizing acids. This is the area of the spleen. It creates the lymphocytes that recycle old red blood cells. It will correlate to the area of the liver. The pancreas. Pancreas secretes digestive enzymes and hormones, especially insulin, to keep the blood sugar in balance. And it also correlates to the bladder. So you can see that there's a whole bunch of stuff right here that the solar plexus utilizes to create energy, to burn the fuel of food in the body and turn it into energy, turn it into action to create. So you can see that this chakra has a general secondary rulership of a lot of different organs in this area of the body. When we start to look at its co-rulers, Mars and Pluto, this is the area that tends to be the center of gravity for most people, especially the consensus state. Remember, with the root chakra, the outer layer was ruled by Saturn, and there is this pressure to conform, so we close down the root chakra. And for most in that consensus world, the Kundalini energy isn't even active. And so they're not really recognizing the real power that comes from the root chakra, how the desire nature is mainly unconscious. They only know the desire nature through the conscious will of Mars. So the center of gravity for most of the consensus state is right there in the gut, in the stomach, in the will, the conscious effort. And you can see where we get to want to have power over when we're coming from here and we're not in touch with our lower chakras and deeper power down below. So it becomes an exertion of our will and desire. It becomes that exertion of having power over. Or if we're not exerting it, then that power under. We don't have the strength of will. We don't have the ability to exert ourselves. And the real work that comes then through these two planetary co-rulers, Mars and Pluto, is aligning personal will, Mars, with higher will. And you can look at this two different ways. You can look at it as almost aligning personal will and ego with the higher will of the soul, individual soul, and you can look at it as aligning our individual soul with universal soul. So what we get when we start looking at these two planetary co-rulers here is really understanding the right use of will, the right use of creativity, the right use of power and action and energy. And when we have an alignment of that with our own higher will, with higher will of source, then we become a creative force in the universe. Again, we become more efficient with energy because we're in alignment with what's highest and best for ourselves. Now, you can start to see some of these distortions we've been talking about back and forth here from these two planetary co-rulers. Again, one more time. Power over under issues, or a lack of energy, an inability to create life. If we have stressful aspects to Mars or stressful aspects to Pluto, we can start to see some of these issues come through here. Trying to control everything in our outer world in order to have some sense of security in the gut, in the navel chakra, or giving up, being overwhelmed, not having any energy from here. Now, more on these two as we start to look at them individually. So again, as you can see, correlates with the function of will, including our own personal will, including other will, the will of other people of an external nature, the will of others outside of ourselves, and of course the higher will of source energy or God Goddess. As we said before, Mars rulership here creates that center of gravity for most people. Now, one of the things that tends to happen when people choose to meditate is it not only opens up the higher chakras, it opens up the lower chakras as well for most people. It opens up the root and sacral chakras. Meditation also allows that center of gravity to shift from the solar plexus, personal will chakra, to the crown chakra, or higher will, God Goddess. When we meditate and we're in the meditative state, As we really start to open up the Kundalini, it can feel like an earthquake. And what's actually happening is we're changing the density of the molecules on a cellular level into becoming lighter. We are lessening the density of the molecules in our body. We will also have a collision of wills here through Mars. We can really relate to Mars, Aries first house here. Power over, power under. I'm going to force my will upon you. You're trying to force your will upon me. We see plenty of this activity out there in the world. How well can you surrender to how well can you surrender to higher will? And if this chakra is underdeveloped, can you assert your will? Do you over assert your egocentric will? And as we've been talking before with Mars, are we going to learn those power over under issues to share power together? Takes less energy when we work together. Another one of the things that correlates to the solar plexus or navel chakra is this is literally where the umbilical cord is, our belly button. And this is where the life support system for any baby is attached to the mother through the uterus. And when we cut the umbilical cord, this is known as that original anxiety of separation from the womb. And so you can see how that whole does the world support me comes in here. Can I take charge of my life? Can I create my own life support system? Can I create my own energy once I am separate from the womb? Now, Mars, in general, rules energy levels in the body. It rules the mineral iron specifically. It rules the muscles. It has a specific rulership of red blood cells, which are known to be the energy cells of the body. It has co-rulership with Venus of the adrenal glands, which, are located in the lower back just above our kidneys. And the adrenal glands secrete adrenaline and cortisone. And these have to do with our fight, flight, or freeze hormones, so to speak. So Mars has a specific rulership of adrenaline. Mars also has a rulership of lactic acid. And when we have an overactive, overproductive Mars, we will produce too much adrenaline and it will build up lactic acid and create muscular inflammation. And when our muscles get inflamed, it shuts down the circulation on our blood. And so one of the health and wellness choices for too much lactic acid or too much inflammation in the body is one of the B complex vitamins, B5, which is pantothenic acid. It specifically will dissolve lactic acid in the body. So you can probably understand how in general, when we're overly stressed and how overly stressed we are in this Western world, when we're stressed out, we can, again, create inflammation in the body. And so having enough B complex vitamins in our food is extremely important for our energy levels. And if necessary, supplementing with the B complex vitamins, specifically with B5, if you have over-inflammation in your body. And look at how they're saying more and more that stress is a precursor to so many diseases. And inflammation is a precursor to so many diseases. Well, here's where it's coming from. It's coming from the adrenal glands being overworked and reaching a point of exhaustion. Too much adrenaline means that we're going to feel wired. We can't calm down. We can get obsessive over things, and that can eventually lead to just being overwhelmed and burnout, breakdown of the nervous system. So you can see how these types of distortions could be coming from the solar plexus chakra and Mars's rulership of all this area. If we have too much cortisone, there's a loss of energy and drive. There's a desire to withdraw. There's a desire to just shut down. My body needs to rest. And of course, we can have the fluctuation on producing too much adrenaline, then too much cortisone, and back and forth and back and forth. And what that tends to do is it creates a yo-yoism. We're up, we're down. We're excited, we're depressed. We have energy, we can't get off the couch. This is having a stressed out Mars. This is having too many, aspects to Mars or Venus. This can be Mars square Venus in the chart. A stressed out Venus-Mars aspect is going to start to affect this chakra and our energy levels. Now, Mars in the female body specifically rules progesterone, and this builds up in the second half of the female cycle. It thickens the lining of the uterus so that the fertilized egg can attach and stay there. And if fertilization of the egg does not happen, then the progesterone sheds at the end of our cycle, and women have their menses. So if we have a stressed out Mars, this can be the female who miscarries, who can conceive but can't carry the baby to term because the progesterone is out of whack. And there can tend to be a lot of PMS cycles too. What they've found in the last decade or so, it's not always too much estrogen. Sometimes it's not enough progesterone. Both can get whacked out, too much, too little. Now, in males, Mars has specific rulership of testosterone. And if a male has a stressed out Mars in their chart, or perhaps a Mars retrograde, they may not produce enough testosterone and keep all of the male organs running in their best shape. When it comes to the solar plexus chakra and Pluto has a co-rulership of the first chakra. It rules the inner core of the root chakra, and it rules on a co-rulership level with Mars, the solar plexus chakra. And so, again, it's a side-by-side rulership. It's not Mars on the outside, Pluto underneath, or Pluto at the core. It's more of a side-by-side. It's an alignment of these two chakras working together side by side. Personal will, higher will, coming together, combining forces, and being much more efficient with action and energy, as we said before. I will repeat a lot of the stuff about the root chakra here, though, because this is Pluto's rulership in general. So this starts to come into this chakra as well. Now, many of us from the world of evolutionary astrology will know that Pluto represents the soul and its dual desire nature, the desire to separate from that which created us and the desire to return to that which created us. Now, many of us know that this desire nature of the soul operates on a mainly unconscious level. And these desires of the soul are made conscious via Mars. This is why Mars becomes the leading edge of our desire nature. The desire to separate, the desire to exhaust all those separating desires. And Mars is also the leading edge of the desire to return to source. So again, can you see here how Mars ruling the solar plexus chakra and the desire to return is going to move the energy of Kundalini up to the higher chakras above? And Mars is the leading edge of the separating desire. It's going to stay there in the solar plexus desire. It's going to go down to the sacral and the root chakras to manifest all of these separating desires. And again, no judgment on this. It's through the exhaustion of the separating desires that we expand in consciousness. So you can see just how Mars rulership here goes up and down with the solar plexus chakra. And then you can see how the unconscious desires of Pluto are made conscious at that solar plexus area. This is where we get the drive, the desire, the will to create, to exhaust those separating desires. So that solar plexus chakra is the desire nature in general, and it's our personal will to act upon those desires and create them, manifest them. Pluto, in and of itself, again, rules that action of the Kundalini energy rising, the evolution of the soul and its consciousness. And so you can see here as that Kundalini energy rises to the solar plexus chakra, as Mars and Pluto combined here, the Kundalini energy helps us create. It's there to create. And when we align that personal will and universal will, it helps us create as efficiently as possible. In other words, we can become more energetic versus when personal will, again, is out of alignment with universal will, and it takes more force, it takes more energy. We we become exhausted trying to create when we're going against the force of what's naturally best for us. But when we align with that force of what's highest and best for us, that Kundalini energy comes and helps us. We create more efficiently. Pluto will rule RNA, DNA, genetic coding. So it will specifically relate to any familial and karmic genetics that get passed along. Genetic mutations, cellular mutations such as cancer. Pluto rules cancer in general. Pluto rules viruses, bacteria, fungus, and prions. Prions are incomplete proteins. There are hundreds of prions. There's more than just mad cow disease and what do they call it, scrapie, and science only knows prions through in the brain that will create Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease in humans. But prions not only accumulate in the brain, they accumulate in all our organs and tissues. I'm very familiar with this from my energetic balancing work. And by the way, if you ever want information on energetic balancing, you're welcome to just pop us an email. It's something Leroy and I have been involved with. I've been involved with it for 16 years, and it takes a photograph and it imparts 500,000, 500,000 healing frequencies via your photograph, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we add new frequencies on an active and hereditary level week after week after week. We also have karmic and enhancing frequencies as well. So if you want more information on prions or energetic balancing, you're welcome to contact us. That's how I know, and on an energetic level, we have so many. We have hundreds of prions, and they've been around for hundreds of years. And a lot of what we will label cancer imbalances are really prion imbalances. And we will get to the point where our traditional science world comes to recognize this. And so Pluto has rulership also of colon, intestines, peristaltic action. There's the root chakra. Co-rules the liver, simulation and detoxification with Jupiter. Can you now see how Pluto, having co-rulership of this solar plexus chakra area with Mars, you can see how it has this co-rulership with other planets of so many organs in this area. The liver with Jupiter, the stomach and duodenum with the moon. It has rulership of the pancreas and the insulin and glycogen. It rules all the enzymatic processes. The solar plexus has rulership of the enzymatic processes, the digestive and metabolic processes and enzymes. Just that chakra does. Well, now you can see where this is coming from with Pluto as well. Pluto also has co-rulership with Mars and Venus of the whole reproductive process and the exchange of any of the sexual fluids that we all know. When you start to work with health and wellness astrology in general, and this is also true with working with the chakras in general, nothing's isolated. Everything interacts with everything else. And so there tends to start to come into be these co-rulerships and these corresponding relationships. So, for instance, there is, trying to remember what the Jeffrey Green term for it was. Hold on, I'm going to look this up here. I can find this really quick because I know the page. There's a natural polarity through the chakra systems. The root chakra has a natural polarity with the navel chakra. Can you see this through Pluto? Pluto ruling the core of the root chakra and co-ruling the navel chakra with Mars. You see where that brings in a natural polarity. The sacral chakra has a polarity to the heart chakra. Now, when you start to look at some of your own planetary aspects, and you have two planets in a harsh aspect to each other, go look at the chakras they rule and see if you notice excess or weakness in those areas of your body through the chakra rulerships of any planets that are stressed out together. This is my material, and so here is our chart that we're going to use as an example. But first of all, I'd like to just take a moment and stop and see if I have questions or comments. Is there anything that I forgot or didn't discuss that you might want to ask a question or comment on?
It's pretty quiet on the board, Kim, um, but I can also unmute our volunteer if you'd like.
Sure.
Hi, Vicki, are you there? Vicki, are you mic'd? This is Leroy and Kim. Maybe she's having a hard time finding her USB headset or her earbuds. I don't see an email from her. She is on the...
Yeah, why don't you just work through the Q&A and I can continue and I can start to bring in some background information. And by all means, you are welcome to speak up anytime you want to, as Leroy tries to work with you. Our volunteer is a female chart. Her birth data is July 3rd, 1961, 8:50 a.m. in Teaneck, New Jersey. This chart here, we have a rising of 20.5 degrees Leo. We have Pluto here at 6 degrees Virgo, and we have Mars in a balsamic conjunction with Pluto, 2 degrees Virgo. You see here that Mars is conjunct the North Node. Uranus, the North Node's at 28 Leo. Uranus is 23 degrees Leo. We do not have a conjunction. Is that 28 to 8? Yeah, it's we're 8 degrees. We could bring this in as a Pluto conjunct the North Node. I really think that it will bleed through that way. South Node is activated at 28 degrees Aquarius in the 7th house as ego of the past. But for those of you who are not familiar in evolutionary astrology, Pluto's the soul, nodal axis is the ego, and when the North Node is conjunct Pluto, it means the soul is coming from the 1st house, and it means that the soul is continuing to need to move in the direction of the 1st house. The Pluto polarity point, opposite house, does not come into activation when North Node is conjunct Pluto. North Node is new phase Pluto. It's separating away from it, but it is still conjunct by orb. Environmental conditionings. This volunteer chart example was an only child raised by older parents in the Northeast. She went to Catholic school all the way through high school. She went to college, BA in biology, and then she went on to chiropractic college. And she has had a chiropractic practice in the Northeast. She's semi-retired, also works as an astrologer. And she has always felt different. And when she was 48 years old, she found out she was adopted as a baby. Her parents never told her about this. She spent the first year of her life basically in a Catholic orphanage. Birth mother was a teenage girl who she was never allowed to touch her baby. So there was talk about that sacral chakra and the original anxiety and separation from the womb and the mother and being put in an orphanage where you did not have much touching. She did reconcile with her birth mother in the last decade. She met her within the last decade. They do have a relationship. adopted father is, I think, passed over, but her adopted mother is 95. She lives with her and her husband. Her and her husband are separated, but they live together. Two half sisters, they don't want a relationship with her. Um, she, some of what I found interesting from the more health and wellness perspective, she had her gallbladder removed after a gallstone obstructed her bile duct and turned her yellow. Her health is okay, but she's under a lot of stress. I would imagine some of the stress is the fact that she has to take care of a 95-year-old mother, and she also has to help take, I would assume, some care of a husband who had a grand mal seizure, which broke shoulder, rotator cuff, dislocated his shoulder. He can't work like he used to do anymore. Overweight, tends to stress out and eat when she's stressed. Was diagnosed with Lyme disease, so common up there in the Northeast, about 2, 3 years ago. Um, Holds herself first stage spirituated, has a lot of background in paganism, and I think that's pretty much everything that I saw here. So, any luck with our volunteer in being able to have her live on the call?
Hello.
Hi there.
Hi. I figured it out on my end, so
All
it
right.
took a
Well,
while.
thanks for showing up, honey, and thank you for volunteering.
Oh, my pleasure.
It's very easy for me to just rattle away here. And so I think what I'd like to do is give you a moment first. And as you've been listening to things on this class, is there any other information that's really struck you or things that have been sparking for you as you listen to this?
Yeah, actually, the whole thing about the initial anxiety
Mm-hmm.
of birth and all that, not being able to bond with my birth mother. I think it's interesting that I chose a profession where I have to touch people. And a lot of times I used to think that they were healing me as I was healing them. Um, but now that, I do have care of my mother, and she's 95 and a half now. She just turned 95 and a half. And it's getting very intense. I mean, she's still in good health, but she's a very controlling person, and she doesn't want me to have a relationship with my birth family. Um, One correction is that it's not that my sisters don't want to have a relationship with me. It's just that circumstances in their life prevents it from me, and circumstances in my life, because I'm so wrapped up in trying to keep this boat afloat that I don't have an opportunity to um, really go visit them like I would like to. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, but the whole um, you know thing about the lack of bonding, because I asked myself, I'm a pretty manifested person. I opened up my own practice. I've always been an entrepreneur, so I know my Mars and Pluto works. But I can't see, like, my relationship with my mother is just so difficult for me, and she's so controlling of me, and I have no interest in controlling her. My only interest is just, being who I am and doing what I want to do. And I didn't understand really why I can't get past this. Why it's so difficult for me um, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm between a rock and a hard place with this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sure. I would say that, obviously there's some type of karma with you and this parent that's going on that is really testing your patience and testing your ability to be in your own center of gravity, in your own power through all of the control games that are coming along. I'll address this psychologically for you, and then we'll move into the solar plexus. But if you will notice that Mars is balsamic Pluto,
Yeah.
this means that you are finishing up lifetimes of soul lessonings relative to first house. And the thing that we don't always recognize as consciously is that there's as much relationship karma in the first house as there is in the seventh because of the polarity between the two. So
Right.
there is a releasing of this karma with relationships in order to be free, in order to be able to exercise your own will and your own power. Now, did I remember reading something where it just for various reasons financially it doesn't work for her to be in any assisted living relationship?
Yeah, I don't have the money to put her in assisted living.
Mm-hmm.
And I could put her in a nursing home, but I just don't have the heart to do it because she's pretty with it.
Mm.
And, I mean,
In other words, she doesn't have the dementia.
no,
She just is slowly, through the frailty of age, the
right.
body is just going downhill.
Well, she's got her South Node in Taurus, so she doesn't really let go uh, of life,
Yep.
as it were.
Yep. South Node in Taurus or the second house isn't always a measure of longevity. It can be, and it can literally be. I have a South Node in Taurus myself, and as I've done a few past life regressions, it's just like, okay, can I just die? Will I ever leave the body? There can be just a long, long death in physically leaving the body.
Mhm.
Yes. You can see, if we look at, I'm looking to Saturn and the moon, of course, and in the fourth and 10th houses. I'm trying to see if I can figure out some of what's going on here. You've got the Venus, and you've got Venus squares to this, not so much there, but it comes into a square to Mars, Venus
Right.
Mars square, and so this can be some of that adrenal exhaustion that I was talking about. So karmically, okay, I'm just seeing as finishing up so much karma so that you can be free and live your life and live your world. And it almost seems like not only the karma with mother, but karma with a husband in which you're separated but living in the same house yet.
Right.
So the question begs itself, did you have an overuse of will and power in past lives that this is the karmic atoning with all of this? Or have you allowed others to have so much power and will over you that you're in this situation by karmic necessity to learn how to stand up for yourself regardless of the situation at hand? Do you have an intuitive feel whether it's one or the other? The karma
Uh,
or the evolutionary necessity? You're, I'm sure, familiar with both of those terms.
right. I don't have a sense. I mean, I really don't. I would likely say it's a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I don't feel like I really am the type, at least in this life, who asserts my will in any way but to that it's my will and I want to be free to be who I am. I don't want power over anybody. In fact, my mother was raised by a very um, dictatorial, tyrannical father, and she tells me what I'm supposed to do, but she can't make any decisions for herself. She asks me what she should do. And I always say, do what makes you happy, and she doesn't understand the whole idea of that. So,
She has no
um,
concept of it.
no, none,
Mhm.
no.
When I look at the South Node and bring this into the picture, and rulers over here pulling you forward, North Node conjunct to Pluto, I sense that there perhaps is a lot of trauma and karma in relationships.
Oh, that's for sure.
And so it may be that this is an evolutionary necessity end of the situation more, that you're
Right,
just being pulled forward. You're being asked to assert your will and to move through that. You have Saturn retrograde, which can be that there has perhaps been refusal in the past to go through your own maturation process or to stand in your own sense of authority. And
right,
now, through this being retrograde and Jupiter's new phase here, both of these retrograde, I mean, it's just, again, it's almost like requiring you to break free and become your own autonomous inner authority,
right.
to mature, to do the growing up. So I mean, the part of it, we deal with this so much in the world of astrology where there is somebody in some type of a relationship with a partner marriage type intimacy or a familial one where it's just, for whatever reasons, here I am in this caretaking role. And at this point, my world is on hold until they're gone.
Right.
And yet, this chart right here and this sacral, or excuse me, solar plexus rulership is saying it's not in your highest and best interest to put your life on hold. So how can you create? How can you take baby steps forward to exert your energy to create through this familial and intimate situation versus being paralyzed?
Right.
Okay? That would be, to me, what I would see that you would want to take forth from this.
Well, what I've been doing is because I've sort of been stuck where I am, I've had an opportunity to change my career and then work on doing, teaching different things like astrology, like chakras. In fact, I'm just developing a like a class called Keepers of the Flame, which is pretty interesting. Um, so it's about empowering ourselves by remembering the feminine power. So, I mean, I feel like I'm doing what you said.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's been a long time. My mother's been with us for 12 years, so it seems like interminable sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely see that for you. And the Pluto transit might make it seem even more of a caretaking role here going on for you. Perhaps the Uranus transit, as Uranus comes to square Saturn, might give you some sense of freedom. That might be some timing of that. But more power to you for creating this Keepers of the Flame series. I mean, that is just, to me, that's everything for you to really be working in that area. Now, the fact that you had your gallbladder out and, um, the main purpose of the gallbladder, as we said, is to emulsify fats and neutralize, acids. Um, there are those that say when we have our gallbladder taken out, we could just go on with life as normal and we don't have to make any changes to diet. I have a tendency to disagree with that. And I would say because of this concentration of, the solar plexus chakra here, I would say that you may want to entertain just digestive enzymes in general.
Right.
Okay, and I don't know if you do that. From the health and wellness perspective, I think that the first supplement we need is digestive enzymes. Unless we have a diet that is 70% raw foods or more, we are eating food, when we cook food above 110 degrees, when we warm up food, the first thing that goes is digestive enzymes. The
Right.
second thing that goes is vitamins. And we cannot access minerals without vitamins, and we cannot access vitamins and minerals without our digestive enzymes. So you would be someone that I would say could be very helped by digestive enzymes. Now, I happen to have, I'm trying to think what's in my chart that would go that way. Well, Pluto. It's my Pluto aspects for me because Pluto has a primary rulership of digestive, of enzymes in particular, the enzymatic process in particular. Mars comes in because of the whole solar plexus chakra and the metabolic enzymes. I've spent a lot of time trying out a whole bunch of different enzymes throughout my life, and the one that I really came across that works by me is it's a product called N, the letter N as in no, and ZIMES, and it's a product that's made by Swanson Vitamins. And swansonvitamins.com for anybody is a mail order catalog out of North Dakota. And their enzyme, you can get the regular or the one with dairy. Um, it's a full spectrum metabolic enzyme, so you can digest fats, carbohydrates, and proteins. And it's based upon a formula by Dr. Howell, Howell. And Dr. Howell was a medical doctor who back in the 1930s figured out that we destroyed enzymes in the cooking process. And so this is his formula for digestive enzymes. And I've taken a lot of different types, and this one was the one that worked for me. And I mean, I was someone who used to look like I was 5 or 6 months pregnant by 3 o'clock every afternoon because I just didn't. And so when I started on these enzymes, I didn't even have to go through the probiotic process that's so popular right now. This enzyme product in and of itself um, changed everything for me. And when my family and I get together, I'm the one who pulls the bottle of enzymes out of my purse and we pass them around the table. I would sense that this might be something that could be beneficial for you. Um, and I'm not saying maybe you have your own that works very well for you, but I would just say that it would help you metabolize your food better and get the nutrition out of the food. Because when we stress ourselves out and we overdo our adrenals, we have then a tendency to go for the caffeine and the chocolate and the sugars and all of that, the foods that we think give us energy but deplete energy. And so through a good enzymatic product, to help you get the nutrients out of food, it will tone down cravings.
Right.
And
Because I'm actually getting nutrients.
yes, because you're actually uptaking the nutrients for yourself. So just an opinion there, but you can, and I'm saying this for anybody who listens to this class. You don't have to have a stressed out solar plexus chakra. You don't have to have harsh aspects to Mars and Pluto. Again, if you eat processed or cooked foods, you need metabolic enzymes because they're the first thing that's destroyed with cooking. All right. So that's just some of the nutrition there, and then that will help the gallbladder. That will help you be able to digest fats easier with the lack of the gallbladder. Okay, and what is it?
Okay.
I'm trying to think of the metaphysical things about the gallbladder.
In
Pan,
Chinese medicine,
mhm.
it's indecision.
Oh, that makes sense. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. I have a younger sister who has, and her husband both have excess weight issues, and they both have had their gallbladder out. And she has a stressed out Mars. She has Mars in a grand cross. And one of the other planets is the moon. Moon rules all containers. Moon has co-rulership of any container. So the gallbladder contains bile. The pancreas contains insulin. The womb, the uterus. Moon has co-rulership of all those types of things. But she has a stressed out Mars, and gallbladder has been removed. That really sounds interesting. And so look at here then, from another karmic level, with this north node conjunct these three planets. So north node, the ego is striving to pull all three of these forward. All three of these planets is striving to pull your own ego forward in the first house of self, initiating for self, taking action for self. So I have a tendency to say that you would fall on the more underdeveloped side of the solar plexus issues
Right.
and need more will, need more asserting of yourself. Now, chances are when mom passes, you'll be able to naturally do some of that. If you're not making an effort in those directions, though, before mom passes, she could pass, and universe doesn't like a void. That energy could fill in with another situation that would, quote unquote, prevent you from taking charge and creating.
Yes.
So you want to be working forward baby steps, however necessary, however you need to do so.
Right. Right.
Um, Now, do you deal with issues of inflammation or sore muscles with lactic acid
Yes.
buildup?
Yes. I'm
Okay.
not sure if it's that or the Lyme disease, but especially recently, it's my muscles have been very
Mm-hmm.
inflamed
Mm-hmm.
all over my body.
So with the diagnosis of the Lyme disease, and basically what Lyme disease is, for anybody who doesn't know, it's the bite of a tick, and the bite passes along all kinds of toxins, not just bacterial. It can pass along bacteria, virus, prion. It can pass along all of those toxins that are all ruled by Pluto, and it creates inflammation in and of itself. A question for you: Have you started the process of applying for disability?
No.
Do you know that you can?
No, I didn't know that.
Yes. I am familiar with my energetic balancing world, which, by the way, there's a very good response in that world to all of the tick diseases. I was bitten by a tick and got Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and I had the tick in me a week. but I was on my energetic balancing the whole time, and I had 100% complete recovery.
Wow.
So that is an option for you if it's within your budget, and you would be willing to get information from me if you wanted to. If you go through with the disability, our energetic balancing program becomes half price.
Okay.
But with or without energetic balancing, through my energetic balancing world, I am familiar with people that have, when they finally get diagnosed with the tick diseases, and it's very, very common in the Northeast, that you do qualify for um, federal disability.
Right.
I mean, there's a process in which you go through in regards to all that, but that is an option that you may check into.
Okay.
Okay? I mean, that's the reason why we pay Social Security. I mean, I know there are those that abuse it. So, karmically, then, I know we all get bit gazillion times by different types of insects. So, karmically, you would want to talk to the energy of the tick bite and ask where within your soul you are using this as as an excuse or as a delay in really taking charge of your life.
Right. Right. I have that awareness. I do.
Okay. Good,
Yeah.
good, good.
Yeah.
And, again, with this
I
signature,
really
go ahead.
I really try not to use it in that manner. I don't even like telling people. I have a cousin who has it, and when
Mhm.
she found out I had it, she said to a friend of hers, "Oh, she's stricken with Lyme disease." And I'm like, "I'm not stricken with anything.
Good,
I just," I was like, "No, I'm not going there."
good.
It just, some days it's just really hard to get out of bed because of it, or maybe not because of it, but some days it's hard to get out of bed. Maybe it's just my enzymes. I mean, I'd be good with that.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather have that, you know.
Well, and you may want to perhaps experiment with the B complex or the pantothenic acid B5
Right.
specifically. And you may need, Jeffrey Green used to say 500 milligrams a day. Um, you know, that's coming from his original school. That material is, 20 years old, 30, I don't remember. So anyway, you may want to experiment now because you can take it in multiple forms. You may need a larger dosage. You may need multiple dosages throughout the day, but it could be something that you experiment with and see if it gives you any relief to the inflammation and sore muscles.
Great.
And then
Okay.
I would work up your own, like you said, work up your own visualization um, exercises that call on the power of the universe to come through you,
Right.
to unite with you. Envision your own belly button. Envision a psychic umbilical cord that connects to Mother Earth, that connects to Universal Mother, that connects to the feminine energy of feeling, loved, loving, and lovable, as Leroy and I say. So you could be doing some um, metaphysical efforts in that area, as well as perhaps some of these other physical options that I was stating.
Right.
Is anything that I'm saying raising questions for you? Or do you have any questions, general, specific?
Um, well, just incidentally, I was diagnosed with Lyme disease when Neptune was opposing my Mars.
Oh, how coincidental. Not. Well, looking at that transit then, there's that whole separation anxiety.
Mm.
And that would just reiterate what I said of calling upon feeling connected to universal source. There's a lot of, how we work with feeling where do they say the silver cord comes in? Through the back of the medulla oblongata, to the back of the brain stem. When we dream and we leave the body at night, we're still connected to that silver cord. And then there are also those that, want to run the crown energy of feeling connected to source. I would say you want to connect source to your belly button.
Okay.
You want to create a psychic umbilical cord connection to source energy. And just visualize yourself, the power of the universe, the power of source coming to you, through you. And visualize it just waking you up with energy, giving you energy, helping you find your will, helping you find that ability to take charge of your own life and create.
I feel like I've done that before, and this has been a test maybe that requires me to, I don't know, do it again, but from a different place.
Yeah.
I feel as though I moved out of my home. I moved out when I was 18 and I never went back. And in part, I was running away from my mother because she was so controlling.
Mm-hmm.
And I created my life away from her, but then she needed me, and she took an orphan and took care of an orphan. So there's that layer of atonement, guilt, I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
responsibility. And now I feel like instead of running away, I'm moving through it in a
Mm-hmm.
way. It's a different, and this is the test. And I do feel as though when she does pass, that it's almost like I'm going to be like in a slingshot. I'm going to be
Mm-hmm.
shot out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I have some direction, and I have a lot of ideas.
Mm-hmm.
But it can be a little daunting at times.
Many times Saturn retrograde in general will it's breaking away from outer authority and finding your own inner authority. Sometimes Saturn retrograde will be breaking free from parental karma. It's not always the case every time you see Saturn retrograde, but sometimes it's literally, okay, let's work through this parent-child relationship so that I can be free. Retrograde. Mm-hmm. It just senses to be very karmic and talking to you and just picking up on it intuitively. To me, I sense that this is it's there to be the fuel to get you to break free and take charge of your life.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Let me check in and see if I don't ever pay any attention to the Q&A board because I got to focus on what I'm teaching. Is there anybody else with comments or questions out there, Leroy? And does our volunteer any other questions from you, honey?
No, I think this has really been wonderful, Kim. Thank you.
No, thank you for volunteering. Um,
Just a little input from one of our listeners, Sean, wanted to add because of the strong Pluto Mars.
yes.
She had similar gallbladder issues and all of this, and she used a product called Free Minos by True Hope that helped so much with these gallbladder issues and help her to assimilate some of the foods that we were talking about. It's an amino acid product. I thought that was appropriate because of that strong Mars Pluto.
Would you please spell that for the sake of the tape?
The product is Free Minos, just like it sounds, Freeminos by True Hope. And again, full disclosure, we're not in business with True Hope or Free Meals. But I
Right.
thought it was legitimate because of the strong Pluto Mars, and just kind of listening to Vicky talk about her condition. And again, under full disclosure, this person, Sean, recommended that, and she also did gallbladder and liver cleanses as well. Really helped her right the ship, so to speak.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You know, reminding the gallbladder again, you know how they will say the gall of them, the nerve of them, how, how dare they? And so sometimes to me, when I look at the gallbladder, I just think there's something there about being able to process through life. It's too much. And that's just my own, intuition and my own observation of a sister who has a very underdeveloped navel chakra with her Mars in a Grand Cross. She gets frustrated and angry a lot, but she doesn't turn that energy into action. And so, and we both have observed these two people in my family, and again, both have had their gallbladder out, and I'm just seeing them not processing, not metabolizing life. And so I sometimes think that about the gallbladder through my small observation in my family. Would you feel this is right for you, Vicki?
Uh, yes, yes. Uh-huh.
You can relate to that?
I
Yeah.
can relate to that. Yeah.
Well, here's to your power, honey.
Thank you.
Here's to you claiming your power and exercising will. And I will, my will, divine will. I will, my will, divine will. You've got that grand trine there in water here too. So, sometimes when you have a grand trine in water, there can be some of this path of least resistance energy.
Right.
And so that's going to feed into this, breaking free, moving forward, exercising the will as well,
Right.
and not let your emotions sometimes get the best of you.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me check in one more time. Anything else, Leroy, from the board or anybody who would have comments or questions?
All clear.
Okay. Any other follow-up questions, comments from our volunteer?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Well, hopefully then this has been helpful in giving people some information on that sacral chakra and how, I've always wondered how, let me back up here, how Pluto can have all this rulership. Where was it? There it is. How, this is the moon, this is the moon. But Pluto starts to come in and have rulership of so many of the organs. And as I've been reviewing the chakra class, I'm like, oh, duh, Pluto ruling the solar plexus, and look at all the organs that are sitting there. So that's where a lot of that information can come from. And exercising the conscious will. And when we're not exercising that conscious will, or we're overwilling and not aligning with universal will, you can see how these, and this isn't, I may be missing one or two here in this, you can see how so many of these organs in this area of the body can then have their upsets, so to speak, and really needing to work with them more. And so, exactly a week from today, we are going to look at the heart chakra and love. And so if I have anybody who is wanting to volunteer their class, the heart chakra is ruled by Venus. So this would be somebody who had Venus retrograde or somebody who had a very active Venus in your chart by aspects. You would be more than willing to send us off an email and volunteer your chart on our class next week. So thank you everyone for showing up and participating in this chakra series, and I will see you next week and then in March and then finally in April as we work our way through this series. Adios everyone, and thank you to our volunteer.
Thank you, Kim.
My pleasure.